Hi to everyone who's tuning in. I'm Chris Cucci, Chief Strategy Officer here at Climate First Bank, and excited to be hosting this episode of our GreenNote podcast, where we host impactful leaders from mission-driven organizations to speak on timely and important topics. From Jane Goodall to George Fontenez, CEO of B Labs USA, tune into the GreenNote podcast to learn more from inspiring leaders and change makers about important problems that we're facing and how to spark change in our community. So I have a very special guest here today, someone who I've had the pleasure of knowing for a few years now, Rokas Beresniovas, who's the Senior Director of Commercial Business with Montgomery County Green Bank, which is a green bank supporting Montgomery County, Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C. Today we'll learn a little more about what a green bank is, how they work, and also hear from Rokas on the ways that Montgomery County Green Bank is making a difference in their community. So I'll stop talking now so we can say hello to our guest and hear from him. Rokas, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me, Chris, and good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about Montgomery County Green Bank?
Sure. The Green Bank is a nonprofit organization that's been around since 2016. It was set up to accelerate investment in renewable energy and climate resilient solutions across Montgomery County, Maryland. Basically, we help make it easier and more affordable for residents and businesses to go renewable, whether that's energy efficiency, solar, or cutting carbon emissions. We do that by bringing together public and private capital to support these projects. Our mission is pretty simple: help the county hit its climate goals. That means lowering emissions, cutting energy costs, and creating healthier places to live. And we especially focus on making sure low and moderate income communities have access to renewable energy options too. Um, that's why we work closely with local banks, developers, contractors, you name it. A few years back, the county council passed what's called the Green Building Now Act. That law gives 10% of the county's fuel energy tax revenue, about $18 million a year,
Wow.
to the Montgomery County Green Bank. And that funding has really allowed us to expand our programs and attract even more private investment into local renewable energy projects. Now, let's talk about the types of the support we offer. We've got technical assistance program to help commercial property owners figure out the best path to cut emissions and boost energy performance.
Okay.
Think energy audits, feasibility studies for electric vehicle infrastructure, electrification planning, resilience strategies, you name it. In many cases, we even cover the cost of these studies with subsidies up to 100%.
Wow. It's amazing.
Then we got, yeah, then we got commercial financing. We offer things like CPACE, which stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy Financing, solar power purchase agreements, and solutions for small business energy upgrades. The goal is always the same: improve cash flow, reduce cost, and make renewable energy adaptation easier. And we are not picky about the property types. Financing supports everything from new constructions to retrofits, including condos, co-ops, commercial buildings, and even faith-based organizations. We also support homeowners with residential programs, where we have a pilot with the Climate First Bank, which we can get in.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but first, Chris, let me zoom out just for a second. Let's talk about Montgomery County itself, because
Okay.
maybe the
Yeah, because
audience.
I always enjoy visiting up there, and one of the reasons I love coming to Montgomery County is because when I meet with your team, we also usually have the opportunity to meet with either local businesses in the community or members of the local government. And I'm just impressed with how driven everyone is around a mission of sustainability in the community. So yeah, please share more about the county there because I think what they're doing is so impressive.
That's right. So MoCo, as we like to call it, that stands for Montgomery County, it's a thriving and diverse suburbs just outside of Washington D.C. As you know, with over 1 million residents. It's one of the most economically powerful counties in the country. The GDP of Montgomery County is actually larger than the entire country I was born and raised in, which is Lithuania. that really puts into perspective. And we are home for major federal agencies, as you know, Chris, like NIH, FDA. We have big employers like Marriott and Lockheed Martin that are headquartered here, and we are a national leader as well in biotech and research. The people here incredibly educated and diverse. Nearly 30% of the residents over age of 25 have postgraduate degrees, and cities like Rockville, where we are headquartered in, and Gaithersburg and Germantown, Silver Spring are among the most culturally diverse in the country as well. And when it comes to climate action, Montgomery County is leading the way. As you mentioned, the county has bold plans, 80% emissions reduction by 2027, which is coming up, net zero by 2035. And we're also proud to say we've got the largest electric school bus fleet in the US, and we're building one of the most advanced clean transit depots in the nation right here in Rockville with the solar microgrids and hydrogen infrastructure. So, yeah, we are not just talking about renewable energy and climate action, we are doing something about it. And the Green Bank is right at the center of making that happen. And I have been with the Green Bank for about 4 years now, and in that time, it's been incredible to watch the growth. We went from just a few $1 million in deployed project financing to nearly $250 million about to be. So that kind of momentum shows just how much demand there is, here for renewable energy and resilient infrastructure, and how powerful public-private partnership can be when it's done right, which we are a great example of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And partnership obviously it's a kind of a recurring theme, and something I know you've mentioned earlier when you were talking about just the services you provide, the technical assistance and lending services. And one of the things you mentioned was that you work a lot with private capital, and you work with local banks in your community there. I've had the opportunity to meet some of my fellow bankers from other banks in your market who are doing some really cool things. And you touched on this a little bit earlier, but I want to dive into it a little more. The partnership that we developed, which I don't know, it was a couple of years in the making, or about a year in the making before we launched. But last mid-November of 2024, we finally went live with the launch that we did, which was a partnership between Climate First Bank's fintech subsidiary, One Ethos, which is the technology we use to rapidly underwrite, very efficiently underwrite and originate consumer solar loans. And there was a reason that you needed us as part of that partnership. I think part of it was the efficiency of the technology, but there's another reason, right? Because of how your Green Bank is designed. And so I want to talk about that. But before we do that, I think maybe some of our audience may not be familiar with the term Green Bank. A lot of times when I talk to people, they think Climate First Bank is a green bank, and we're a green commercial bank, right? We're a bank that's focused on environmental and social impact lending, but we're not a true green bank like you are. So could you maybe talk about that a little bit, about what green banks are and kind of where they came from and what they do in different parts of America?
Absolutely, yeah. So every green bank is it can be structured in different ways. I can expand a little bit on how Montgomery County Green Bank is structured. As an example, it's a 501c3 nonprofit established by the county legislation in 2015 and officially launched in 2016. It's designed really as a county's official green financial entity, which means it has a public purpose but operates with the private sector agility, if that makes sense. And the key structural features in our case, we are independent nonprofit, right? So we have that independent nonprofit status. And
so you're not part of the county, right? To be clear.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So it operates independently from the county government, but it was created through county law and receives public funds, such as share of the fuel energy tax. This hybrid model gives it flexibility while staying accountable to public goals. We have a board of directors. It's governed by the board of directors made up of professionals with experience in finance, energy, sustainability, law, and public policy. And some board members are appointed by the county executive or can be appointed by the county executive and approved by the county council as well. Public-private partnership model, which we have, one of the most powerful things about a green bank is its ability to leverage public dollars and attract private capital. It's what we're doing with
Right.
you guys. Every public dollar put in is designed to bring in multiple dollars of private investment. That's how small public investment can lead to big climate impact. And then flexible financing tools. MCGB and other green banks they offer a toolbox of solutions, loans, credit enhancements, co-investments, power purchase agreements, in some cases CPACE. We as CPACE administrator and we as CPACE lender as well. Some green banks, also CPACE lenders, not necessarily administrators. Some are both. They fill gaps in the market where traditional financing won't go, especially for early stage or community focused projects.
Right.
Focus on equity, which is very important. Many green banks, including MCGB, intentionally focus on low and moderate income communities. They develop programs with social equity in mind, supporting affordable housing, access to solar, or electrification in areas that needs the most. And I think the technical assistance layer that we have, and other green banks have. They often offer technical assistance, to help projects get off the ground with subsidies, with subsidies for energy audits, feasibility studies, electrification planning, basically helping people understand what's possible and how to do it.
Right.
So it's a green banks, sit at kind of intersection of government policy, market opportunity, and the climate necessity. They are kind of nimble and catalytic, and they're designed to move capital to where it can do the most good,
Right.
for both, for the environment and the community. And I think at this juncture, there are probably about 50 green banks in a country now. A lot of them are nascent. Some
Yeah.
of them are more established, like New York Green Bank, Connecticut Green Bank. We also have a DC Green Bank as well, as our neighbor.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of CDFIs as well, which called for the community development financial institutions that are also focus on a climate finance. Even though they're not called green banks, but they're mission driven to do the climate finance.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes I liken CDFIs to kind of a middle step between what we do as a full service commercial bank and then what you do at the Green Bank. And I always tell people, like, we don't really compete, we complement one another. Green banks people don't bank with you, right? They don't have accounts and do deposits with you and things like that.
That's right.
You're really I always try to explain it to someone who's doesn't know from the outside that it's like a loan fund. It's a fund that's a special purpose though, and has a specific mission, typically around decarbonization or sustainability. Like you said, affordable housing ties into that. The stat, I think we all hear it all the time, and it's well known in the industry, not as well known outside of it, that if you look at the same home owned by a low to moderate income homeowner versus somebody else, typically the energy costs are much higher for that LMI homeowner. And the reason for that
Right.
is that maybe they don't have the latest Energy Star efficient appliances. They don't have the most energy efficient home. Maybe their windows and doors are older. So it's so important to us, to look at ways that we can support them with energy improvement, and also, of course, with solar, which stabilizes the cost of energy, because that is going to, help the whole community. The demand for electricity is not going away. It certainly continues to increase with technology and population growth and everything else we're experiencing. So we need to look at ways that we can diversify the sources of energy, right, and make it as affordable as possible for people, especially people who, are maybe not at the same, economic level as others. And that brings me to maybe let's dive a little bit more into that partnership that we launched. I did want to, talk about that because I had actually some numbers I haven't shared with you yet that I was excited to share. So we launched that in again November of 24,
Let's
and
just stop right there.
yeah,
No, 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 November, right? Like that is like the worst time to launch any program,
yeah,
especially that has anything to do with solar, right? You
right.
you you got holidays,
Solar
you
in
got
Maryland, yeah,
no sun,
yeah. It's a little
it's
cold out, right?
cloudy.
Nobody's thinking
Yeah, the
about
last
solar.
thing people think about is solar, right?
That's right.
In winter. Yeah. So I'm in
And
suspense. What are the numbers?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So happy to report this. So mid-November, and these numbers are through about middle of May. So what's that? Roughly 6 months, maybe just short of 6 months. So far, we've done 76 loans under the program. So that's 76 homeowners in Montgomery County who now have solar thanks to this program. That amounts to about $2.8 million in loans. 16 of those loans so far have been in equity emphasis areas, which you can tell us a little more about, but I guess essentially is areas that have some higher concentration of low to moderate income homeowners, and they're areas that the county has deemed, maybe were historically overlooked, and they want to, emphasize development and removal of blight
That's
in those communities. So,
Yeah, I
um,
think the other terms that people use are opportunity zones, low income areas.
yeah,
We just call it equity emphasis areas. Yeah, that's kind of the same meaning.
kind of similar. Yeah. And so when we calculate, we look at what the benefit is financially of those 76 loans that we've done so far. That's nearly $800,000 in power bill savings, over the lifetime for those people in your county, which is really great to see. Um, that program too, for people who are listening, they can go online and check it out and learn more about it. Of course, if you look at One Ethos and Montgomery County Green Bank, you can find it. But what you guys did, which was really incredible, is you provided a credit enhancement, which is called a rate buy down, interest rate buy down, where essentially the Green Bank is, for the first 10 years of the loan, they're paying a portion of the interest rate on the loan. So our typical loan is 7.99%. It's a 30-year loan. We don't charge any hidden fees. With the Montgomery County Green Bank program, if you are in an equity emphasis area in Montgomery County, your organization is buying down the rate from 7.99 to 0% for the first 10 years, which is obviously a substantial savings for those people in the community. And then even if they are not in an equity emphasis area, literally anyone in the community, regardless of their economic status, can still take advantage of the loan program and get a 3% buy down. So their rate is 4.99% for the first 10 years. Um, I think that's what we were excited to do this, of course, because it was an opportunity for us as we were just starting to expand outside of Florida last year. Um, and one of the things I always tell people, which I think is really cool, is if we looked at like our April numbers, for example, we're in all 50 states now as a consumer solar lender. Uh, Maryland is typically number two or three behind Florida for consumer solar loan production in the last couple of months. And that's amazing because, Maryland is not always the first state a lot of people might think of when they think of, high producing solar. Um, but I think it's this program, and it's the value of, like, the value we see in a green bank, I always say, is that you know your community better than we do, right? We're this digital bank that's focused on the whole country, but we can't be successful in a local community unless we have people like you to work with who are like boots on the ground. You know what your community needs. You told us what was going to be successful in that market. And, I think that's the thing that it's really hard to replicate working on your own. And that to me is why these partnerships are so crucial,
Yeah,
Um,
no, absolutely, and and Chris, just for the audience, we technically are not allowed to do consumer loans. We are commercial, essentially a debt fund.
right.
But but we can work with partners and provide this type of enhancements on the back end, right? So we're not giving a loan directly to the consumer. We the Juanitos and Climate First Bank is giving the loan, and on the back end, we're providing that enhancement that we can do. And over the
Yeah,
years, we try to work with to find we try to create these type of programs with other with some credit unions and other institutions, and they were not as successful as this one with you guys. And I'm just wondering, Chris, why do you think that is that because
um,
you're like so ambitious, like the fastest growing small bank right now in the country, and or how did you guys do it? Because you are a Florida bank that
right,
wanted to get into this market, but it still was like a relatively new market. Like, what did you
absolutely.
do to be successful in this market?
Part of it is like you say, I think just it is ambition. We always joke here that we try to punch above our weight. We do a lot of things from a technical standpoint, the types of lending that we're willing to look at. It's unique for a bank of our size, and just will be 4 years old in just a couple of days, so very young bank. But honestly, I think a lot of our success I attribute to, in your market at least, I attribute to you and your CEO, Stephen. I remember we were at a conference with you guys in California last fall, kind of talking about this program. It was maybe a few weeks before the launch, and you were telling us about some of your past experiences, and I could see you. I was there with Dima, who runs our solar department, and Marcio, this founder of One Ethos, and we all talked about this after the fact. We could tell there was a little bit of doubt in your minds as to how successful we were going to be with this. And that fueled us. I mean, we left that meeting with you guys and we were like, we have to like kill this. We have to blow it out of the water because we want to prove to them that we can do it. So that was great. I don't know if that was a tactic on your part or not, but it worked. It definitely lit a fire under us,
You
and
never
we
know.
were not going to give up. So Dima, who I give a lot of credit to, she's one of the hardest working people I've ever known. She's been in your market, right? She comes up there and she's met with your team. She comes to town and meets face
Yeah,
to face with solar installers in the market and educates them on our product, how to position it properly, the value of what we're doing with Montgomery County Green Bank. And then there's like this cool ripple effect that happens. We were so lucky to partner with you guys because you're kind of in this like really unique place geographically too, right? You're in Maryland, but you're part of the DC Metro. You kind of look at that DMV area, right? Delaware, I'm sorry, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And so you have all these areas touching one another. We initially were focusing on Montgomery County, which is, the market that this serves. But when we did that, we started to develop relationships with solar installers. And those solar installers that work in Montgomery County, they're not exclusive to your county. They're doing work typically all over Maryland, parts
yeah,
of Virginia, Northern Virginia, working in DC. Um, so this program was kind of like their introduction to our brand and to the work that we do. It gave them the experience, I think, of working with our team and seeing how hands-on and collaborative we strive to be. And because of that, we started to see a big uptick in new projects in DC, in Northern Virginia, and then across the rest of Maryland, even outside of Montgomery County. And that's really how these programs are supposed to work. That's what I always tell people. What this did, it enables those solar installers to close more deals, to get more solar installations done. Obviously, it's creating a greener community. It's creating affordability and making solar more attainable for people. But it's also creating jobs because now those solar installers are busier than they've ever been. They're more productive than they've ever been, and they need more people. So in your local community, jobs are being created because of the types of programs that your team is, launching and putting together. And like you said, you need partners like us on this because consumer lending is not an area that you handle directly, but you're able to incentivize or promote consumer lending by working with a partner like us. But commercial to me is, really exciting. And I've had the opportunity to tour some of the commercial work that your team has done in the market there. Um, can you maybe share some highlights, maybe a project you're proud of that you worked on the past year with Montgomery County on the commercial side?
Sure, yeah. We done quite a few. I think they're all special. I don't think I have a favorite one.
Yeah.
I think it was about a year ago. We did um, a new roof, new reflective roofs and solar for one community. It's a 100% affordable multifamily property in Gaithersburg. Um, and that was about $11 million project to replace the roofs and put
Wow.
solar.
Big
Um,
project. You did that all on your own? That's a big funding.
um, so we were leading it, but as you know, our mission is to leverage.
Yeah.
So no, we did not do that on our own. We led, but we participated with multiple institutions. One of them was NYSEG, New York Energy Efficiency Corporation, that participated with us in that transaction. Inclusive Prosperity Capital participated
Yeah.
in that
Very
transaction,
familiar with them.
which is a spin-off of the Connecticut Green Bank.
Yeah.
Very, very similar, like us, Connecticut Green Bank can only do stuff in the Connecticut. We can only do stuff in our county. Some green banks have these type of spin-off to do more national impact.
Okay.
Uh, and Locus Bank, formerly known as Virginia Community Capital, participated with us in that specific transaction. Um,
And Locus is a CDFI, is that right?
Locus is a CDFI,
Cool.
and they are very ambitious in doing more climate finance as well. As you know, a lot of CDFIs are focused on affordable housing, um, but more and more I see, trying to figure out how to get into the climate finance, specifically community solar and electrification for multifamily properties as well. So we leveraged. We had three other nonprofits who
Yeah.
joined. This transaction. I believe it's the largest one, largest solar transaction on 100% affordable multifamily property in Maryland. There are like 64 buildings that kind of scattered around the community.
Yeah.
So we're very, very proud of that transaction. Yeah, we working on a couple new transactions right now that very exciting as well. We have 100% affordable new construction multifamily property that's going to be a net zero.
Oh,
Uh,
cool. Okay.
it's 100% affordable and net zero. I believe it's 140 units, which would make one of the
Wow.
largest, if not the largest, 100% affordable net zero property in the country,
That's amazing.
right in Montgomery County. I know there's some net zero affordable housing projects, especially in New York and Pennsylvania, but I believe those are 50 units or less. So,
Okay.
very, very exciting project. So proud of all of them, and we have a huge demand. It's like also be pretty heavily concentrated in this county in multifamily sector.
Yes.
As you know, District of Columbia have a lot of office space, hotels, hospitality, and then Montgomery County and Northern Virginia, that's where people actually live, right?
Right.
So we have this huge concentration of multifamily properties, market and affordable, and also lots of common ownership communities as well, such as condo associations, and co-ops,
Gotcha.
which
A lot
needs
of
the multifamily.
rooftops.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, with our program, I think, Chris, now that I'm kind of thinking, you forgot to mention it's not just solar for the residential that we have that pilot, right? You got
That's right.
you have the new roof is included and the battery storage, right?
That's
So
right. 100%
if you think
financing for
about that,
everything.
right?
Yeah.
If I have a house and I need to replace the roof, if I add solar, I would qualify for that.
That's exactly right. And that I'm glad you brought that up. And it's a great point because I think it certainly is sometimes that's one of the reasons people don't do solar is they say my roof is old. I'm going to wait till I have to replace the roof to consider solar. Well, if you can get it all done at one time, and we even cover it's a small thing, but it makes a big difference. We'll even cover the insulation that can be financed into that loan, the insulation under the roof. So, if you get a well insulated roof, you get solar at the same time, you've just reduced your energy expenses to,
Yeah,
zero or near zero, which is incredible.
that's right. And one of the challenges, Chris, we have, and I don't think it's specific to our county, but a lot of these, homes, with the aging infrastructure, they are not efficient at all,
Yeah,
right? So fine, you replace the roof, you put solar on it, that's great. But if your house is not efficient, you know, that's, it doesn't add up. Like,
that's
and a
right.
lot of these residents, they have, they have very little options to finance the energy efficiency, right? There's a lack of the contractors, trusted contractors, which, we as a Montgomery County Green Bank, we vet our contractors
Yeah,
that we use,
so
and
important.
they have to be approved by, by our investment committee. You guys vet your solar installers as well, right?
That's right. Yeah, we have almost 700 approved solar installation companies now across the US. And those companies go through an approval process with us to be onboarded, to be allowed to offer our financing. And then we check in on it at least annually, sometimes more frequently, depending on the age of the company, risk profile that we determine. But we do follow up to make sure they're continuing to maintain insurance. We look for any updates. Have there been a recent onslaught of complaints about them to Better Business Bureau or on review websites and things like that? So we pay close attention because, like you, we consider ourselves, we want to be as good of a partner and an advocate for the borrower, for the homeowner, or for the real estate, the commercial building owner, as we can. And part of that is making sure that they're working with reputable installation companies. So super important to us. What you touched on is key to the idea that so solar, right? Solar switches your consumption from the grid to the sun, but what it doesn't do is it doesn't reduce your consumption. So how do you reduce your energy consumption? And that's exactly right. It's insulation, doors, windows, modernizing maybe your heating and cooling system with an electric heat pump. Those are the things that should be done, frankly, before you look at solar, because if you do all of those things, you're going to reduce your consumption, and then you may not need as large of a solar installation. So you'll save money on solar in the long run, while also making your house more energy efficient. And I know, I guess we should at least tease it. I know we're still working on it, but that's something that you and I have been working on with our teams is a version 2.0 of the program that we launched last November. And the goal of that program would be to also incorporate home energy improvement finance. So doing things like the windows, doors, and heat pumps, in addition to the solar and battery storage that we're doing today. I think we'll probably, if everything keeps going in the right direction, maybe we'll be able to announce that before the end of the year, which would be exciting. And the other area which I think is really interesting, one thing we always said is we're like, well, you know, Montgomery County Green Bank has been so good to us, we don't want to like step on toes at all and do commercial in their market. And you were like, no, man, like we want you in the market. We just want to collaborate with you, and we're going to help enable projects that maybe you could not have done without us. And to that point, we're working on the small commercial solution because you're like a lot of nonprofits. I think you guys have a team of uh, extremely dedicated and hardworking people who I've met. But there's never enough resource to do all of the things that you want to do. That's just a fact, right? And I think one area where you said there's been some challenges, those small, you know, sub 100 kilowatt type commercial solar installation. So this could be like a person, maybe a local dentist who owns their own building and they want to embrace solar, or any local retail building owner or whatever. how do you do something for them that's very efficient when you have limited resources? And the answer, of course, we always say is technology. So I know we're talking with your team as well about trying to implement a technology solution so that we can really help to quickly assess and originate small commercial loans in the market with you guys, which will be really cool.
Yeah, no, it's exciting, and it's just the beginning, I think. Chris, do you want to mention another pilot we have?
Oh
People
yeah,
people can
I almost
probably,
forgot.
you know,
And this is one
uh,
everybody's familiar with because we all eat. So yeah, please share that one.
you know those humming sounds, especially if you're in the New York City on every block, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
generators
that
running.
the food truck electrification. It's something that caught me by surprise. For our county being so innovative, they got a grant from the state of Maryland to help electrify food trucks. And it's not just an electric food truck; it's a regular food truck, but it replaced generators with the batteries to improve health, sound, um, air quality, and we partner up with the Climate First Bank, Juanitas FinTech to make that easy for the food truck owners to to have an affordable electrification of those food trucks. Chris, have you seen this type of offering across the U.S. From your perspective?
This is a recurring theme with stuff that we do with you guys. No, we haven't, but we want to. And so this program was really exciting to us. One, because it was well, it was just different because you weren't actually asking us for financing. Really, you were asking us to build a technology solution to help facilitate these very small requests, dollar wise, and to be able to rapidly process them, which is something that we think we're pretty good at. And so we were excited to use our technology to help do something good in your community. The other thing that it did is it introduced us to this solution, to the battery generator solution. And this works for food trucks. It can work for like motorhomes, motor coaches, those sorts of things as well. And it can also work for like public events, stages, outdoor stages, and things like that. So there's so many uses for these things. If you really start to listen, like you said, you hear them everywhere. They're anywhere where electricity is needed outside. You're hearing these generators, and you're breathing the exhaust from these generators. So
Yes, yeah.
there's a cost savings on fuel. Definitely is making our air a lot cleaner. We would love to see more of this, and that's something that we share. As you know, we share the examples of the stuff that we do with Montgomery County Green Bank all the time with other green banks and CDFIs and partners around the country because we really are hoping to see some of those other markets emulate some of the things that you're doing. And that's not at all a knock on other green banks. They all share, I think, and I know that you guys you talk to one another, the green banks, because everybody is doing things that are unique. And in fairness, sometimes things that work in one market won't work in another. But I think oftentimes it makes a lot of sense for that level of idea sharing. It creates opportunities where people in other markets can start to kind of piggyback on those ideas and maybe modify them as needed to work better in their market. One of the things I think is really cool about you guys and the way you operate is you look for problems that you can solve, and like the CPACE, which you mentioned a little bit, that's one of those areas. You recently, maybe it's been a little while now, but you approved as a CPACE administrator, and I know you mentioned what CPACE stands for. But maybe can you talk a little bit about like what is CPACE? How does it work a little bit? Without getting too deep in the details, and also what is the niche that Montgomery County Green Bank will fill in the CPACE realm in your market?
Sure. So CPACE stands as the commercial uh, assessed clean energy, and In US, CPA has been around for a while, and there is also residential CPAs in some jurisdictions, not in ours. We only focus on the commercial base, and essentially it's a tax assessment. So if the property wants to do upgrades, whether it's HVACs, windows, anything that qualifies for energy efficiency, it doesn't have to be an existing property. It can be new construction as well.
Okay.
If you build a property that is, you not only meeting the code, but you're above the code, and every jurisdiction has a different different kind of rules how to measure that. You can finance that through CPACE, which is a tax assessment. It's like when you get your tax assessment, it's like you got sewer. It would be basically CPACE, and you pay that with your taxes, either annually or biannually. Um,
Okay. With your
it's
property taxes,
That's
essentially,
right.
right?
So
Okay.
it's attached to the property, and it's non-recourse, right? So if I sell the property, that tax assessment and that loan, which is part of the tax assessment, goes to the new owner,
Okay.
right? So you don't really add any type of revolving loan on your balance sheet. It stays with the property.
Got it.
So it's pretty innovative. It's popular in some markets and not so much in others. Part of it is just educating the um, you know property owners. Also, nonprofits
Yeah.
can use this type of mechanism as well. And we have done our first CPACE loan um, um, for a church in Silver Spring.
Great.
Um, for all of the upgrades and solar. Um, so we became we've been CPACE administrator for quite a few years now, but then we became also a capital provider. And the reason we did that was because there's a lot of CPACE lenders in
Yeah.
the US, and they're focused on large transactions, specifically conversions from let's say office to residential, right?
Right.
We
Yes,
see
I've
as a
seen
lot
these
of
deals
that,
and they're like tens of millions of dollars, right? That's typically
right?
I get calls from CPACE administrators who want us to participate as the debt partner, and it'll be a
Right.
$30 million, $50 million
That's right.
transaction. Yeah.
So so when it comes to the smaller transactions, nobody really want to touch it.
Yeah.
Especially the national lenders. Community banks don't quite in that space yet, at least not in our market. So that's where we kind of came in and say, hey, how can we fill this gap? Nobody else is doing, this $1 million, $2 million CPACE.
Right.
Um, why don't just we do it, right? So that was an idea for us becoming a capital provider, and hopefully, when we do more smaller CPAs, we can package them up and sell it in the secondary market, and get recapitalization. And I was just in a CPAs Nation conference in New York City a couple of weeks ago,
Okay.
and it was interesting to see, you know, some of the statistics, how 5 years ago, an average C-based transaction was just like a couple $100,000, to a couple of years ago went to a few million, to now is like an average C-based transaction is kind of like $15 million or something,
Wow.
right? Like,
Yeah.
so who's filling that gap, And I think the green banks can kind of fill that gap. And it was also great to see some of the people from some of the nonprofits from Europe that also kind of working in Europe to establish similar product, specifically CPACE. I know
Interesting. I hadn't
UK
heard about
is
that.
one.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's lots of opportunities out there, Chris.
Definitely. Yeah. Um, so, we've talked a lot about it, different areas where you guys are working in the market. And one thing we didn't really talk about a whole lot was you. Um, so I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I'm just going to ask you, I mean, how did you end up working for Montgomery County Green Bank? You said it's been about 3 years, and Clearly, it was a good move because they've grown so much in the last 3 years. Obviously, part of that, a big part of that, was probably bringing you on, I bet. But how did you get there?
Very kind. So, yeah, I been in banking for about 2 decades now, primarily commercial space. Worked for quite a few local community banks. Worked for national banks and a couple international banks like HSBC doing trade finance to State Bank of India, whom I helped them to kind of
Wow.
establish an office here in DC. And during pandemic, I really wanted to get out of the local. I was with the credit union at that time. Of kind of like this day to day. You fit in one box or else banking, and I saw
Yeah.
this opportunity, which I didn't even not know about, like what the green banks are. After I did more research, I got really excited, and I love startups. So when I joined, the bank was only at a couple $1 million in deployed funds. I
Wow.
believe I was like employee number 6. So really small startup. We wear a
Yeah.
lot of hats, from doing business development to structuring transactions to underwriting and marketing and comms and like everyone was wearing a lot of hats, and I think with the right team and organic growth, and fantastic counter support, who really believes in us and sees the value of what we can do. It's just became this national sensation. Now
Definitely.
everybody knows about us.
Yeah. It's the truth. Everyone does. When I talk to certainly other green banks around the country, everybody knows you and speaks very highly of the work you're doing and just the scale of how rapidly you've grown what you're doing. And we are really grateful that we've been able to be a little tiny part of that, and excited to hopefully continue that over the next several years with you guys. Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, we thank you again for that. I know we covered a lot today, and I wanted to make sure there wasn't anything I missed. Was there anything else that you wanted to share about the Green Bank, or about the work that you're doing, or the county in general, before we wrap up for today?
I don't think so. We did cover it a lot. Just want to emphasize that having you guys, it's been great as a partner. I really appreciate how outside of the box you guys are. Even right now, I'm talking to the county. Um, about electrifying. We passed a new law. The county passed a new law electrifying
Oh, right. Yeah.
uh, um, um,
Landscaping, right?
that's right, landscaping, right? So the leaf blowers and and the equipment. The first thing I thought about is like, you know, Juanito's Climate First Bank. We should be able to create some kind of program um, to help that industry to electrify their equipment. And we're looking forward to working with you on that as well.
Yeah,
And just for the audience, it, our mission is to leverage. So, we would love to work with as many banks as we can. And Climate First Bank has been, fantastic to work because of their technology and how open minded they are, and innovative they are. And we always looking for different partnerships.
definitely.
We can work together and collaborate, and I'm sure you guys do as well.
Yeah, we feel the same way. And there is, I always say, for people for banks and organizations that want to be in this space, there is enough business out there for all of us. So yeah, if you're like-minded, if you're values-minded, if you're focused on the small business owner, the consumer, value to the community, and putting those things first, we love to collaborate with you. We feel the same way. So thanks again, Rokas, for being here. I think that wraps it up for today. So please remember to follow us, Climate First Bank and One Ethos on social media, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Climate First Bank. Thanks and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.